The first thing I noticed was the smell. Burned meat, chlorine, spilled soda, and something electrical. I had just pulled into my driveway after a 12-hour Saturday shift at my beauty salon when I saw 3 black trash bags leaning against my garage door. One had split open, spilling paper plates, crushed juice boxes, and blue frosting across the pavement. My front gate was hanging crooked from one hinge. Music was still playing somewhere behind the house, but it sounded distorted as if the speakers were underwater. For several seconds, I sat behind the wheel without moving. Then I saw the balloons. Dozens of them were tied to my fence, my patio chairs, and even the Japanese maple tree I had planted the previous spring. A banner stretched across the back porch. Happy birthday, Ava and Mason. Ava and Mason were my sister Rachel's children, and I had not invited them to my house. I grabbed my bag, got out of the car, and walked through the damaged gate. My backyard looked like a storm had passed through it. One of my expensive outdoor speakers lay face down beside the pool, dripping water. The second was still mounted beneath the patio roof, crackling through a children's song at full volume. My grill stood open, black smoke curling from a tray of burned hamburger patties. Grease had spilled onto the stone beneath it, leaving a dark stain across the pale pavers. Pool floats, plastic cups, torn wrapping paper, and half-eaten food covered the grass. 2 patio chairs had been thrown into the shallow end. Someone had dragged my cream-colored outdoor sofa closer to the pool, and its cushions were soaked through. My stomach tightened as I walked towards the house. The sliding door was unlocked. Inside, muddy footprints covered the kitchen floor. The downstairs bathroom sink was clogged with cake frosting and paper towels. Someone had opened my pantry, emptied my snack cabinet, and left the refrigerator door hanging open. Then I heard laughter coming from the far side of the yard. Rachel was standing beside the pool with her phone in one hand and a half-finished drink in the other. She was wearing a white summer dress and oversized sunglasses, looking completely relaxed. Around her stood 4 other mothers collecting bags and calling for their children. Rachel noticed me and smiled. "Oh, you're home." I stared at her. "What happened here?" She lowered her sunglasses slightly. "The party happened here." "What party?" She laughed as though I had asked the stupidest question imaginable. "The twins' birthday party. I told you I was planning something. You told me you were thinking about having a party. You never asked to use my house." Rachel waved her hand toward the yard. "Emma, please. You were at work all day. The place was empty." "It wasn't empty. It was my home." One of the mothers glanced at Rachel, muttered a quick goodbye, and hurried her children toward the gate. The others followed. Within a minute, the backyard was almost silent. Rachel sighed. "Don't start." I pointed toward the broken gate. "Did you force your way in?" "Of course not. Mom gave me the side door code." For a moment, I couldn't speak. I had given our mother the code 2 years earlier for emergencies. She had promised never to share it. "You brought strangers into my home without permission." "They're not strangers. They're parents from the kids' school. They're strangers to me." Rachel rolled her eyes. "You have a pool of grill speakers in this huge backyard. What was I supposed to do? Rent some depressing room in a bowling alley?" "Yes." She stared at me. "What, you were supposed to rent a venue or use your own house or ask me? My yard is too small." "That isn't my problem." Her expression hardened. "You're being ridiculous. The children had fun. Isn't that what matters?" I looked around at the destruction. My speaker is in the pool. Mason knocked it over by accident. My furniture is soaked. They're outdoor cushions. My grill is still burning. I was going to turn it off. You were leaving. Rachel placed her drink on the vicinity table and crossed her arms. "Why do you always have to ruin everything?" I almost laughed. "Thumb ruining everything." "Yes." You walk in with that expression like someone committed a crime. "It was a birthday party, Emma. A family birthday party at my house without my permission. You weren't using it." That sentence hit me harder than all the damage around us. You weren't using it as though my home were an item she could borrow whenever I wasn't physically standing inside it. As though everything I worked for belonged to the family as long as they wanted it badly enough. Rachel grabbed her purse. "They'll come back tomorrow and help clean." "No, you'll clean it now. I'm exhausted." "So am I. You own a beauty salon. You spent the day doing hair and makeup, not digging ditches." I felt my jaw tighten. Rachel had always spoken about my business that way. She called it playing with makeup. Even though I had spent 12 years building it from a rented chair into a successful salon with 8 employees. She loved the free hair treatments, discounted products, and emergency appointments I gave her, but she never treated my work as real. I worked from 7 this morning until 6:00. I said I'm not cleaning up a party I didn't authorize. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and smiled. "The kids are waiting in the car. I have to go." "Rachel." She walked toward the gate. "Send me pictures of anything that's actually broken and try not to be dramatic." Then she left. I stood in the center of the ruined yard listening to the damaged speaker hiss. That was when my phone vibrated. My niece Ava had tagged me in a video. I opened it. The recording had been made beside my pool earlier that afternoon. Ava, who had just turned 14, was filming herself and 3 friends while Mason jumped into the water behind them. One girl asked, "Whose house is this?" Ava smirked at the camera. "My Aunt Emma's. She's rich and never has kids, so we use her stuff." The girls laughed. Then Mason shouted from the pool, "She'll clean it up. She's basically our free maid." Ava turned the camera toward the patio, showing food crushed into the cushions and wet towels covering the ground. "Yeah," she said. Taunt Emma loves cleaning after us. More laughter. The video ended with one of the children tipping a bucket of pool water over my portable speaker while Mason cheered. I watched it twice. By the third time, my hands had stopped shaking. I saved the video, took screenshots, and uploaded everything to a private cloud folder. Then I started photographing the damage. Every chair, every stain, every broken hinge, every muddy footprint inside my house. I documented the clogged sink, the open refrigerator, the burned grill, and the waterlogged speakers. I photographed the pool filter, which was making a grinding noise I had never heard before. I did not clean anything until I had recorded every detail. Around 9 that evening, my mother called. Rachel says you screamed at her in front of the children. I didn't scream. Well, she's very upset. I came home to 30 people using my property without permission. They, her family, the parents from her children, his school, are not my family. My mother sighed. Emma, your sister doesn't have the kind of home you have. She wanted the children to have a special birthday. Then she should have asked. She knew you would say no. Exactly. Silence filled the line. Then my mother spoke in the slow, disappointed tone she had used on me since childhood. You've always been very protective of your things. My things. You know what I mean? Yes, I do. I think you mean the things I worked for. There's no need to sound hostile. Did you give Rachel my security code? Another silence. It was only for one afternoon. You had no right. She's your sister. That code was for emergencies. A birthday is important to a child. A birthday party is not an emergency. My mother's voice sharpened. You have that beautiful house and you barely use the backyard. Rachel has 2 children. Sometimes people with more should be willing to share. I looked through the window at the floating trash in my pool. Them changing the code tonight and you're not getting the new one. I ended the call. The next morning, I hired a professional cleaning crew. I called a pool technician, an electrician, a landscaper, and the company that had installed my outdoor sound system. By Monday afternoon, the estimates had started arriving. Pool cleaning and pump repair, $2 and $180. Replacement outdoor speakers and wiring, $1 and $460. Gate and fence repair, $740. Professional interior and exterior cleaning, $1 $125. Replacement sofa cushions and 2 damaged chairs, $1 and $530. Grill repair and stone stain treatment, $965. Landscaping and tree damage, $700. The total came to exactly $8,700. That did not include the hours I spent documenting the damage, rearranging appointments, meeting technicians, or dealing with the insurance company. I printed the estimates and placed them in a folder. On Tuesday evening, I drove to Rachel's house. She opened the door wearing pajamas even though it was barely 7. What are you doing here? We need to talk. She glanced behind her. The television was playing loudly. Ava and Mason were on the sofa eating pizza. Rachel stepped onto the porch and pulled the door closed. If this is about the party I already told you I'd help clean. The cleanup is finished. Great, problem solved. I handed her the folder. What's this? An invoice. She opened it and stared at the total. Then she laughed. Not a nervous laugh, a real one. You cannot be serious. I am. $8,700. That is the documented cost of the damage. They're just kids. Kids you brought onto my property without permission. You are charging me because children made a mess at a birthday party. I am charging you for a broken gate, damaged furniture, burned stone, a pool repair, destroyed speakers, professional cleaning, and landscaping. Rachel flipped through the pages. This is insane. You always buy the most expensive version of everything, and now you expect me to replace it. I expect you to pay for what was damaged. I don't have $8,000. You should have thought about that before hosting a party at someone else's home. Her face changed. The laughter disappeared. You know, this is exactly why nobody feels comfortable around you. I said nothing. You think because you own a business and bought a big house, you're better than everyone. This has nothing to do with my business. It has everything to do with it. You've become obsessed with money. I'm asking you to take responsibility. You are punishing my children because you are jealous. Jealous of what? That I have a family. The words landed exactly where she intended them to. Rachel knew I had ended an engagement 3 years earlier after discovering my fiancé Lifetime had been stealing money from the salon. She knew I had struggled with the idea that I might never have children. She had used that wound before, but never so openly. I took a breath. This is your final opportunity to handle this privately. She tore the invoice in half. Then she tore it again. The pieces fluttered onto the porch between us. There, she said. Now it's handled. I looked down at the paper. Rachel smiled. What are you going to do? Sue your own sister. I lifted my eyes to hers. I brought you a copy. Her smile faded slightly. I turned and walked back to my car. The following morning, I called Daniel Reeves, an attorney who had helped me negotiate the lease for my second salon location. I explained everything. He asked me to send the estimates, photographs, security footage, text messages, and Ava's video. You have cameras, he asked. Front entrance, side gate, patio, and kitchen. Did they record your sister entering? Yes, she arrived with folding tables at 10:14 in the morning. My mother gave her the code over the phone. And the party guests, all of them. Any footage of the damage occurring. The patio camera shows one child pushing the speaker into the pool. It also shows Rachel watching him do it. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Emma, this is much stronger than a disagreement over cleaning costs. She knowingly entered your property without permission, brought guests inside, used your amenities, and caused documented damage. The fact that she had a code does not automatically mean she had authorization. I don't want her arrested. I'm not recommending that as a first step. We'll begin with a formal demand letter and the children's video. We preserve it as evidence. We do not post it publicly. We do not threaten to embarrass them. We use it only to establish knowledge, conduct, and responsibility. That distinction mattered to me. I was angry, but I did not want revenge against Ava and Mason. They had behaved terribly, but their attitude had come from somewhere. Children did not decide on their own that their aunt was a free maid. Someone had taught them. Daniel prepared the letter. It demanded payment of $8,700 within 15 days. It included copies of the estimate still images from the security footage and a written notice requiring Rachel to preserve all photographs, videos, texts, and social media posts related to the party. It also stated that if she refused to resolve the matter, we would pursue recovery through the courts and submit the evidence to the appropriate insurance companies. The letter was sent by certified mail. It arrived on Friday at 11:32 a.m. At 11:41, Rachel called me. I let it ring. At 11:43, she called again, then again. By noon, I had 9 missed calls, 3 voicemails, and 17 text messages. Call me now. You involved a lawyer. Are you actually insane? You're threatening my children. Mom is having chest pain because of you. This is family business. At 12:18, my mother called the salon. My receptionist, Nicole, came into my office with an uncomfortable expression. Your mother says it's an emergency. I took the call. How could you do this? My mother demanded. Been working. You sent a legal threat to your sister. I sent a demand for repayment. She's terrified. She laughed when I asked her privately. She thought you were joking. I handed her $8,700 in documented repair bills. She says your lawyer is threatening criminal charges. The letter says nothing about criminal charges. Well, that's how it sounds. That isn't my problem. My mother inhaled sharply. I don't recognize you anymore. I looked through the glass wall of my office. Outside, my staff moved between clients. Hair dryers hummed. Someone laughed near the reception desk. Every chair was occupied. This business had started with 1 mirror, 1 secondhand styling chair, and $600 I had saved from working 2 jobs. I had slept in the back room more than once because I could not afford both rent and transportation. Rachel had never asked how I survived those years. She only noticed what I had now. You recognize me, I said. You just don't recognize what happens when I stop allowing you to ignore my boundaries. Your sister made a mistake. She planned a party, collected supplies, invited guests, obtained. My code entered my house, used my property, left without cleaning, laughed at the damage, and tore up the invoice. Which part was the mistake? She didn't think you would react this way. That's because she didn't think I would react at all. My mother lowered her voice. You're going to destroy this family over money. No, Rachel damaged my home. You helped her enter it, and now you're both upset because I'm refusing to pay for the consequences. I was trying to help my grandchildren. You gave away access to my home. I said I was sorry. You haven't said that once. She went quiet. Then she said, I'm sorry you're upset. That isn't an apology. I ended the call. That evening, Rachel appeared at the salon 20 minutes before closing. She marched past the reception desk, ignoring Nicole's request to wait, and entered my office. You need to call off your lawyer. 2 clients turned to look through the glass. I stood and closed the office door. You cannot come into my workplace and make a scene. I'm not making a scene. You are. Lower your voice. You sent me a certified letter like I'm some criminal. I asked you to pay privately. You tore up the invoice because it was ridiculous. Then explain that to my lawyer. Her face rained. I called my insurance company and they said my policy probably doesn't cover intentional entry into someone else's property. That sounds like something you should discuss with them. You know I can't afford this. You could afford custom cakes, rented tables, decorations, party favors, and catering for 30 people. That was for my children. You also could have afforded a legitimate venue. A venue with a pool cost almost $2,000 if I stared at her. Finally, she heard herself. You used my home to save $2,000, I said, and caused nearly $9,000 in damage. It wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. Her voice cracked. What do you want from me, Emma? Do you want me to beg? I want you to accept responsibility. I said I don't have the money. Then propose a payment plan. She looked genuinely offended. You want me to make monthly payments to my own sister? Yes. For how long, that depends on what you can pay. She shook her head. No, absolutely not. You don't get to hold this over me for years. I'm not holding anything over you. I'm asking you to repay a debt. You don't need the money. The sentence was so familiar that I almost smiled. Whenever Rachel wanted something from me, my financial stability became proof that I should provide it. Free hair services, emergency childcare loan payments, holiday gifts, a deposit for Ava's school trip. I did not need the money according to Rachel because I had more than she did, but she never asked what I had given up to earn it. You're right, I said. I won't lose my home without that money. I can survive the repairs. That doesn't make the damage yours to ignore. Her eyes filled with tears. You've always resented me. No, I resented being told that loving you meant accepting whatever you did. She grabbed the door handle. When Mom finds out you refused to help me, she'll never forgive you. Mom helped you trespass in my home. Her opinion is not my priority right now. Rachel slammed the door so hard that the glass shook. The next week, my extended family began contacting me. An aunt said I was traumatizing the children. A cousin told me successful people should not humiliate relatives over too few broken objects. My father, who had been silent until then, sent one message. Your sister was wrong, but involving lawyers is too far. I replied with a photograph of the speaker floating in my pool and a screenshot from Ava's video. He did not respond. Then Rachel made her biggest mistake. She posted a long message on social media claiming that her wealthy, childless sister was suing 2 children for having a birthday party. She wrote that I cared more about furniture than family. She did not mention that she had entered my house without permission. She did not mention the broken gate, the ruined pool equipment, or the invoice she tore apart. Daniel advised me not to respond publicly. Instead, he sent the post to Rachel's attorney, who had finally contacted him. 2 days later, the post disappeared. Then Ava called me. I nearly ignored the call, but something made me answer. Aunt Emma. Her voice was small. Hi, Ava. Mom says we're not allowed to talk to you. Then why are you calling? She sniffed. Because the video was my fault. The damage wasn't all your fault. I posted it. Yes, I thought it was funny. I know. There was a long pause. Mom always says you care more about your salon and your house than you care about us. My chest tightened. Do you believe that I don't know? I have attended every school performance you invited me to. I paid for your art camp last summer. I stayed with you for 3 days when your mom had surgery. Does that sound like I don't care? No. Caring about you does not mean you can enter my home, damage my belongings, and insult me. I didn't think you'd see the video. That doesn't make what you said less hurtful. I'm sorry. This time, unlike my mother's apology, the words sounded real. Thank you for saying that. Utilized Mason is sorry too, but he's scared. He should tell me himself when he's ready. Are you going to send Mom to jail? No, I'm asking her to pay for the damage. She says we might lose our house. That is something you need to discuss with your parents. The adults are responsible for solving this. Ava began to cry. For one terrible second, I wanted to take it all back. I wanted to tell her everything would be fine, pay the bill myself, and return to the familiar role of fixing whatever Rachel broke. Then I remembered the video. She will clean it up. She's basically our free maid. I could love my niece without teaching her that tears erase consequences. Your mother had several chances to resolve this, I said gently. I hope she chooses to do that now. 3 days before the deadline, Rachel's attorney proposed mediation. We met in a conference room downtown. Rachel arrived with her husband, Paul. He looked exhausted and avoided my eyes. My mother came too, although she was not officially part of the dispute. Daniel placed the photographs, invoices, security stills, and a written timeline on the table. Rachel's attorney studied them in silence. Then Daniel played the patio footage. On the screen, Rachel stood beside the pool while Mason and another boy carried my speaker toward the water. A child shouted, "Throw it in." Rachel looked directly at them. Instead of stopping them, she laughed and lifted her phone to record. The boys dropped the speaker. Water splashed across the patio. In the conference room, Paul closed his eyes. I never saw that, he said. Rachel turned toward him. It was chaos. I couldn't control everyone. You were filming. It happened fast. The footage continued. Later, Rachel dragged the wet sofa cushions onto the grass, looked around, and then placed them back on the furniture as though hiding the damage. Next came the video of her forcing the gate when it failed to open fully. Then the kitchen footage showed her unlocking the sliding door and waving guests inside. Paul stared at her. You told me Emma gave permission. Rachel did not answer. You said she offered the house. I said she wouldn't mind. No, you said she offered. My mother leaned forward. Arguing about the wording isn't helping. Paul looked at her. Did Emma give permission? My mother's mouth tightened. She didn't specifically say no to me because I did not know about the party, I said. The mediator asked Rachel whether she disputed the repair costs. Her attorney cleared his throat. We reviewed the estimates. They appear generally supported. Generally, Daniel repeated. We also have proof of payment for every completed repair. He slid copies across the table. The final total remained $8,700. Rachel stared at the documents. I can pay $2,000, she said. And the remaining balance, the mediator asked. I don't know. Paul spoke quietly. We can sell the second car. Rachel spun toward him. No, it's in my name too. I need that car. You work from home 3 days a week. I am not selling my car because Emma is vindictive. Paul's expression changed. For the first time, he looked directly at me. I'm sorry, he said. I believed her. I thought you had agreed to everything. Rachel stared at him as if he had betrayed her. Whose side are you on? The side where we pay for damage we caused. Yes, Rachel. We're married. Your decisions affect me too. My mother began crying. This has gone far enough. Emma, please take the $2,000 and end this. I looked at her. Would you tell Rachel to accept $2,000 if I had caused nearly $9,000 in damage to her home? That's different. Why? Because she has children. There it was. The explanation for every exception, every demand, and every boundary Rachel had been allowed to cross. She had children. Therefore, her time mattered more. Her money mattered more. Her home mattered more. Her mistakes were more understandable. And because I had no children, everything I owned was apparently extra. My house, my income, my weekends, my labor, my dignity. I will agree to a reasonable payment plan, I said. but I will not erase the debt. Rachel pushed her chair back. You're enjoying this. No, I'm ending it. The agreement was finalized that afternoon. Rachel and Paul paid $2,700 immediately. The remaining $6,000 would be paid over 20 months. Rachel also agreed to remove every public statement about me, refrain from entering my home or business, and communicate about the dispute only through the designated legal channels. If she missed 2 payments, the entire remaining balance would become due. As part of the settlement, I agreed not to pursue additional claims for lost time or legal expenses beyond the amount negotiated. When Rachel signed, she pressed the pen so hard that it tore the paper. You'll regret this, she whispered. I signed beneath her name. No, I said. I regretted not doing it sooner. For the first few months, the payments arrived without a message. My mother stopped calling. My father sent me a birthday card with nothing written inside except his name. Ava mailed me a handwritten apology. Mason added one sentence at the bottom. I'm sorry I broke your speaker. I know it wasn't funny. I kept the letter. I did not pretend everything was fixed, but I acknowledged the apology. I also stopped providing free salon appointments to the family. When my mother's regular coloring appointment approached, my receptionist called to confirm the new price. My mother canceled. Rachel tried to schedule Ava for free highlights using an online booking note that said family appointment. Nicole forwarded it to me. I replied with the standard service price. The appointment was canceled 10 minutes later. At first, these small boundaries made me feel cruel. Then I began noticing how much time I had spent preventing other adults from experiencing discomfort. Every family emergency had somehow become mine. Every shortfall, every forgotten birthday cake, every last-minute school payment, every request for free salon products. I had confused usefulness with love. Without those demands, my life became quieter. I expanded the salon's bridal team and promoted Nicole to manager. For the first time in years, I stopped working every Saturday. I replaced the damaged outdoor furniture, but I did not recreate the backyard exactly as it had been. I chose darker cushions that could survive real life. I installed a locking cover over the pool controls and replaced the old gate with a stronger one. Then I bought a long wooden table and invited my employees over for dinner. There were no elaborate decorations, no rented tables, no children screaming near the pool, just 8 women who had helped me build something from nothing, sitting under warm patio lights while music played softly through my new speakers. Nicole raised her glass. To Emma, she said, the only boss I know who can fix a broken color correction, negotiate a commercial lease, and scare an insurance adjuster before lunch. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. Later that night, after the others had gone, I stood beside the pool and looked at the reflection of the lights on the water. My phone buzzed. It was a payment notification from Rachel. Payment 12 of 20. Beneath it was a message. Ava wants to invite you to her art exhibition next month. She asked me to tell you. I read the message twice. For nearly a year, Rachel had communicated only about the payments. I typed a response. Ava can invite me herself. 5 minutes later, my niece texted, my art will be displayed at the community center on Saturday. I'd really like you to come, but I understand if you don't want to. I went. Rachel and I did not hug. My mother did not approach me. But Ava stood beside a painting of a woman behind a bright red door. The woman's hand was wrapped around the handle and sunlight poured through the windows behind her. What is it called? I asked. Ava looked nervous. Boundaries. I turned toward her. She swallowed. Our teacher said a boundary isn't always a wall. Sometimes it's a door because you decide when it opens. For a moment, I could not speak. Then I smiled. That's a very good title. Ava looked toward her mother, who stood across the room. The mom still says you went too far. I know, but Dad says she was wrong. What do you think she studied the painting? I think we thought your house belonged to us because you had more than we did. That doesn't make you a bad person. No, but it made us act badly. I nodded. That's an important difference. When the final payment arrived 8 months later, Rachel included no apology, only a message. Paid in full. I hope you're satisfied. I did not respond. Satisfaction was not the right word. I had not enjoyed watching my sister struggle with the consequences of what she did. I had not enjoyed the silence from my parents or the distance from my niece and nephew. But I had learned something that discomfort had hidden from me for years. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will describe those boundaries as cruelty. They will call you selfish when you stop serving them. They will accuse you of caring too much about money when you ask them to repay what they destroyed. They will say they're just kids, when what they really mean is you should absorb the consequences so we don't have to. Rachel had believed my home was free because I was not charging her to use it. My mother had believed my time was free because I had always made myself available. The children had believed I was their free maid because the adults around them treated my labor as something they were entitled to receive. The $700 repaired my property. The legal letter repaired something else. It repaired the part of me that had spent years believing I needed permission to say no. Rachel no longer had a code to my home. My mother no longer had unlimited access to my schedule. My family no longer received free services simply because we shared blood. The people who loved me without expecting payment, favors, or obedience still had a place in my life. The others had to knock.